do you think you're doing?
Duck out, Grandad. This has got shit to do with you.
Oh, really? Telling you all now. Heap of dog shit. You're too pissy.
Shut up! Shut the fuck up! Shut up!
The film opens with a scene of a middle-aged man named Richie practicing shooting with a former mafia boss. Richie is a British citizen currently living in Spain for retirement. Although he has stepped away from the criminal underworld, it's clear that Richie is no ordinary man. He lives in a luxurious villa, reflecting his wealthy lifestyle. That afternoon, while having lunch with his daughter Carmen, Richie mentions that he misses his older brother Charlie, who still lives in the UK. The scene then shifts to Charlie, who is chatting with a few friends about Richie's past. At that moment, Charlie receives a phone call from Richie in Spain. Through their phone conversations, the two brothers express how much they miss each other. After finishing the call, Charlie returned to his group of friends. At that moment, a woman named Lizzie, a friend of Richie's, approached and asked for his phone number. She said she had been interested in Richie for a while. Knowing that Richie and Lizzie might be a good match, Charlie eventually agreed to help and gave her his brother's number. Elsewhere in London, a couple named Aaron and Lauren were walking down a quiet street. But in reality, Aaron, the leader of a gang, was plotting to harm Lauren. He led her into a narrow alley where a group of gang members was already waiting. In that cramped alley, Lauren was harassed by the gang, and they deliberately recorded everything she did. One of the gang members, named Dean, tried to intervene, but Aaron stopped him. At that moment, Charlie heard noise coming from behind the bar and ran over to check it out. When he saw a group about to harm Lauren, he immediately told her to leave and then loudly scolded the gangsters. However, instead of backing down, the gang insulted Charlie. Furious, Charlie punched one of them. Enraged by this, Aaron ordered his men to kill Charlie.
Heap of dog shit. You're too pissy. Your hands.
Shut the fuck up! Shut up!
Shortly after, Lizzie, who had just stepped out of the bar to look for Charlie, was horrified to find her friend dead in the nearby alley. That night, Lizzie reported the incident to two detectives, Susan Taylor and John. Unfortunately, the two detectives were unable to arrest Aaron and his gang due to a lack of evidence. Additionally, Lizzie hadn't witnessed the incident directly. She had only seen the gang leaving the alley where Charlie was later found dead. She then told Richie about his brother's death. Upon hearing the news, Richie was devastated and decided to return to the UK. The story continues as Detectives Susan and John confront Aaron and his gang. They warn him that if enough evidence is found, they will arrest the entire group and bring them to court for Charlie's murder. But Aaron denied all accusations and walked away without a word. As soon as the detectives left, he ordered his men to silence Lauren, the only person who had witnessed the attack. Anticipating Aaron's plan, Dean secretly went to Lauren's house and warned her that Aaron was coming to threaten her. He also told her to stay inside for her own safety. Later, Aaron and a few gang members showed up at Lauren's doorstep. Through the crack in the door, he threatened her, demanding that she stay silent and not go to the police about Charlie's murder. He even warned that if she spoke up, both she and her mother would be killed. Meanwhile, Richie had arrived in the UK and quickly met up with Roy, one of his trusted allies. After that, Richie went to Lizzie's house to find out exactly what had happened to Charlie. Lizzie told him she hadn't witnessed the incident directly, but she believed the people who killed Charlie were part of a gang known for causing trouble in London. Richie and Roy then went to the scene where Charlie had been murdered. There, they met Detectives Susan and John, who were actively investigating the case. Susan, aware that Richie was once a well-known mafia boss, asked him to let the police handle the investigation. Although reluctant, Richie agreed to hand the case over to the police in front of them, then walked away. That evening at the bar, Lizzie told Richie that she had found a video showing Aaron and his gang harassing Lauren. She believed the video might be connected to Charlie's death. Since she knew Lauren personally, Lizzie gave Richie the address of the place where Lauren worked. Richie later went to meet Lauren to ask about what had happened to his brother. Out of gratitude toward Charlie, Lauren eventually agreed to tell Richie everything. They sat and talked in a quiet spot near her workplace. Lauren revealed that the ones behind Charlie's murder were a local gang led by Aaron. However, neither of them realized that DK, a girl in Aaron's gang, had spotted Lauren talking to someone about what they had done to Charlie. DK returned to the gang's headquarters and told Aaron that Lauren had revealed everything to a man named Richie. Aaron, assuming Richie was just an ordinary middle-aged man, wasn't worried and brushed it off. The scene then shifts to Charlie's funeral, where Richie and his former mafia associates had gathered. Not long after, an old man named Arthur showed up. Richie joked that Arthur should go home because he was too old to be hanging out with them. Offended, Arthur replied that he was the only one who had ever come close to beating Richie. His comment made everyone burst into laughter. Richie then thanked Arthur for coming, saying that it was thanks to him that the old crew had a chance to reunite. After the funeral, Richie visited an old acquaintance, Jack, a former police chief, now living in a modest home. Richie asked Jack to help investigate Aaron and his gang in the area. In return, Richie promised to give Jack a portion of his wealth so he could live more comfortably in retirement. A few days later, Jack gave Richie information on several members of the gang. However, he wasn't able to find anything on Aaron, the gang's leader. Based on what Jack had uncovered, Richie asked his old friends to kidnap two gang members, Leroy and Ed. When they were captured, Leroy and Ed looked down on Richie and his crew, mocking them for being a bunch of old men. They refused to answer any questions and kept demanding to know where Aaron was. Instead, they hurled insults at Richie and his friends, even going so far as to threaten them. Seeing their arrogant attitude, Richie and his crew just laughed. It was clear the two had no idea who they were really dealing with. But when Ed started insulting Charlie, Richie couldn't hold back his anger and became visibly enraged. At Richie's command, Arthur pulled a nail and a hammer from his bag and drove the nail straight through the back of Ed's hand. Not stopping there, Arthur then took out a power drill and drilled into Ed's leg, causing him excruciating pain. Leroy, witnessing his friend being brutally tortured, began to panic. Not wanting to suffer the same fate as Ed, he quickly agreed to help Richie and said he would lure Aaron out of hiding. While Richie's friends remained suspicious, Richie unexpectedly chose to believe him and let Leroy go. But the moment he was freed, Leroy suddenly pulled out a gun and tried to shoot Richie. Before he could pull the trigger, Richie reacted swiftly and shot him dead. Calmly, Richie said he hadn't believed Leroy either, he just didn't want to harm someone who seemed powerless. The whole group burst into laughter at his remark. Moments later, just as they were about to continue interrogating Ed, they discovered he had died from the torture. Elsewhere, Aaron was visibly irritated after learning that two of his men had suddenly gone missing. He suspected that a rival gang was responsible for taking them out. The next day, Richie went back to see Lauren, asking for her help in locating the remaining members of Aaron's gang. Lauren mentioned that one of them, named JB, had been spotted in a parking lot. Feeling guilty for continuing to involve her, Richie eventually asked for her phone number. However, before Lauren could respond, Detective Susan suddenly appeared and intervened to protect her daughter Lauren. Susan was, in fact, Lauren's mother. She firmly told Richie to keep her daughter out of this dangerous situation. The scene then shifts to a parking lot. JB, seeing Arthur standing alone, assumed he was just a weak old man and tried to intimidate him. But when Arthur suddenly pulled out a sword, JB, who was riding a bike, panicked and quickly tried to pedal away. Before he could react, a car suddenly pulled up in front of him, causing him to crash. The car was driven by one of Richie's crew members. It turned out Arthur had been standing in the lot as bait to lure JB in. JB was then kidnapped by Richie and his team, tied up, and left hanging in an abandoned building. Richie asked JB where Aaron was hiding, but JB, who looked down on everyone, refused to give up any information. Not only that, but he also mocked Charlie, saying he looked like a stupid dog as he was beaten to death. Hearing this, Richie lost his temper and beat JB to death.
How's that for fucking irony?
However, after the incident, Richie's old illness flared up, and he had to be hospitalized for treatment. As his health gradually improved, Richie began planning how to lure Aaron out of hiding. A few days later, Aaron and his gang were discovered preparing weapons to defend themselves against a possible attack from a rival gang. Suddenly, Lauren showed up at Aaron's headquarters to meet with him. She told him that all the missing gang members had been kidnapped and killed by Richie. She also mentioned that Richie was currently in the hospital. While they were talking, Lauren's mother called. Aaron told her to answer so that Susan wouldn't suspect anything. After Lauren revealed everything, Aaron and his crew immediately headed to the hospital, taking her as a hostage. He then ordered his men to split up and search for Richie's room. Not long after, two of Aaron's henchmen found a hospital room and opened fire on the bed, thinking Richie was lying there. But they didn't realize it was a trap. Richie and his team were lying in wait behind them and suddenly opened fire in a surprise attack. At that moment, Aaron was in the elevator when he heard the gunshots. He immediately realized that Richie had uncovered his plan. Suspicious of Lauren, he checked her phone and discovered that she had been working with Richie to set him and his gang up. Aaron tried to kill Lauren. Fortunately, Dean arrived just in time and tackled Aaron to the ground, saving her. Realizing how dangerous the situation had become, Lauren quickly called her mother Susan, asking her to come to the hospital. Meanwhile, Richie and his crew took down Aaron's gang members one by one. Unfortunately, one of Richie's men was shot in the arm and had to be rushed to the emergency room. Dean then tried to get Lauren out of the hospital to keep her safe. However, Aaron spotted them and quickly took Lauren hostage, forcing Richie to come out of hiding. Moments later, Richie and his team arrived and saw Aaron about to open fire. Suddenly, Dean attacked from behind, throwing Aaron's plan into chaos. Aaron's gun was knocked toward Richie. Richie rushed to grab it, but struggled to reload the weapon in time. At that moment, Aaron stood in front of Richie, pulled out another gun, and aimed it directly at him. However, the gun was out of bullets, so he couldn't kill Richie. Just then, Susan arrived at the scene with a team of police officers. Seeing that Aaron posed a threat to Richie, they immediately opened fire and took him down. After the incident, Richie was treated at the hospital. Susan came to visit and thanked him for saving her daughter's life. A few days later, Richie threw a big party at a club. There, he reunited with Lizzie and admitted that she had feelings for him. However, when Richie invited her to come with him to Spain, Lizzie declined, saying she didn't want to leave England. At the end of the film, Richie's friends sadly said goodbye as he prepared to return to Spain, especially after everything they had been through together to avenge Charlie's death. But suddenly, Richie appeared behind the group, surprising his friends, who thought he had already flown back to Spain on a private helicopter. He told them that he had decided to stay because he wanted to continue living and fighting alongside the friends he cared about most. The film ends with Richie and his crew preparing to take action against crime in London as a way to atone for their past mistakes. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to hit the like button. And if you didn't, go ahead and hit dislike twice just to be sure to watch the entire movie, and thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more exciting videos.